Have you ever wondered what lies beyond the veil? What happens in the moments after our final breath, when the judgment is made and the path is set for eternity? We often speak of heaven, of mercy, of a loving God waiting with open arms. But faith also speaks of another place, a place of profound and eternal separation, a place we call hell. Many dismiss it as a mere scare tactic, a metaphor for a life without God. But what if it's real? What if one of the most trusted mystics of the 20th century was taken there, not in a dream, but in a vision so vivid it left an indelible mark upon her soul? And what if she heard something that changes everything we thought we knew about eternal damnation? This isn't just a story. This is the testimony of Saint Maria Faustina Kowalska, the apostle of divine mercy. Hidden within the pages of her diary, a book that contains her direct conversations with Jesus Christ, is a chilling and detailed account of her journey into the abyss. And in that abyss, she was shown the answer to a question so terrifying most of us would never dare to ask it. What happens when a soul, already condemned, already suffering the eternal loss of God, tries to call out to Him one last time? Is there only silence? Is there a response? Saint Faustina heard the answer, and what she recorded is one of the most profound and harrowing revelations ever given to a saint. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. This is the truth of what happens in hell when a soul tries to call God again. To understand this revelation, we must first understand the woman to whom it was given. Helena Kowalska, who would become Sister Maria Faustina, was not a theologian or a scholar. She was a simple, uneducated Polish nun from a poor family. She was humble, often assigned the most menial tasks in her convent, from working in the kitchen to tending the garden. It was precisely this simplicity and humility that made her the perfect vessel for one of the most important messages for our modern times, the message of divine mercy. Jesus appeared to her not with complex doctrines, but with a message of a Father's love, of an ocean of mercy available to even the greatest sinner, right up until their very last moment on earth. He asked her to have an image painted, the image of divine mercy, with the words, "Jesus, I trust in you." He gave her the chaplet of divine mercy, a powerful prayer for the dying and for the conversion of sinners. And he asked her to write everything down, every conversation, every vision, every spiritual struggle, in a diary. This diary, titled Divine Mercy in My Soul, would become a spiritual treasure for the entire world. But why would Jesus, the very incarnation of mercy, show his chosen apostle the horrors of hell? It seems like a contradiction. He explained the reason to her himself, and she recorded it faithfully in her diary. He told her he was doing it so that no soul could ever make the excuse that hell does not exist, or that no one has ever been there to see what it is like. It was not an act of cruelty, but a profound act of mercy, a warning, a spiritual road sign pointing away from a cliff of eternal despair. He wanted her to be a witness not only to his infinite mercy, but also to his perfect justice. He wanted the world to know through her testimony that our choices in this life have eternal consequences. The vision was a gift, a terrible and heavy gift, given so that she could tell the world about the reality of what we risk when we turn our backs on God. Before we step into the vision itself, it's crucial to understand the state of Faustina's soul. She was not a casual observer. She was guided by her guardian angel. She felt the torments, she smelled the stench, she heard the cries. Yet she was protected from sharing in the suffering by the special grace of God. She was there as an emissary, a reporter from the land of the living, sent to bring back a message. This wasn't a product of her imagination or a psychological breakdown. This was a structured, guided spiritual journey, one that countless saints have experienced in different ways throughout history. But Faustina's account is unique in its clarity, its detail, and its specific focus on the nature of the suffering. She breaks down the torments of hell into distinct categories, each one more terrifying than the last. So what was this place really like? Was it a cavern of fire and brimstone as often depicted in art? Or was it something far more personal, far more psychological? The truth, as Faustina describes it, is a chilling combination of both. It is a place, but it is also a state of being. And the first torment she describes is the one from which all others flow. Are you prepared to hear what it is? Because this first torment is the key to understanding the horrifying answer to our central question. What happens when a soul there calls for God? It all begins with this first eternal pain. The first and greatest torment, the one that forms the very foundation of hell, is not fire. It is not physical pain. According to Saint Faustina, the first torment is the loss of God. Now, this might sound simple to us here, in a world where we can choose to ignore God or feel distant from Him. But what Faustina saw was entirely different. Imagine the source of all love, all joy, all peace, all beauty, all truth. Imagine that every good thing you have ever experienced, every moment of happiness, every feeling of warmth and security, is just a tiny drop from an infinite ocean of pure goodness. That ocean is God. Now imagine being created for that ocean, designed to swim in it, to be filled by it for all eternity. Then imagine being placed at the shore of that ocean, able to see it, to comprehend its infinite beauty and the joy it contains, but being eternally unable to touch it. You are consumed by a thirst that can never be quenched, a hunger that can never be satisfied, a love that can never be received. The soul in hell knows, with absolute and terrifying clarity, what it has lost. It is a conscious, perpetual, and agonizing separation from the one thing it was made for. This isn't just an absence, it is a presence of loss. A hole in the center of your being, so vast and so painful that all other sufferings pale in comparison. This is the primary essence of hell. Every other pain is just a ripple from this initial, cataclysmic separation. It is the source from which all other torments flow. The second torment, as Faustina describes, stems directly from the first. It is the perpetual remorse of conscience. In this life, we can rationalize our sins. We can make excuses, blame others, or simply forget. But in hell, there are no more illusions. The soul is laid bare before the truth of its own choices. It sees with horrifying clarity every single grace that God offered it during its life, every gentle nudge towards goodness, every opportunity for confession, every moment of potential conversion that was ignored, ridiculed, or pushed aside. The soul sees the immense love behind each of these offerings and the casual contempt with which it rejected them. The conscience becomes an eternal accuser. It replays every selfish act, every cruel word, every moment of pride and hatred, not as a distant memory, but as a fresh, open wound. And the soul cannot look away. There is no distraction, no entertainment, no sleep to escape this relentless self-torture. It is forced to confront the person it chose to become forever. This is the torment of the what if. What if I had just said yes? What if I had accepted that grace? What if I had listened? But the answer is always the same. It's too late. The conscience, which was meant to be a guide to God in this life, becomes an instrument of torture in the next, forever, reminding the soul of the love it rejected and the eternal joy it willingly threw away. And this leads us to the third torment, which is perhaps the most crushing of all. Faustina writes that this torment is the knowledge that their fate will never, ever change. The horrible certainty that this state of suffering is eternal. Think about the worst moments of your life, the deepest grief, the most intense pain, the darkest despair. What got you through it? For most of us, it was hope. The hope that things would get better, that the pain would eventually fade, that tomorrow might bring relief. Hope is the anchor of the human soul in times of trial. In hell, that anchor is gone. The words, "it will get better," are a lie. The concept of tomorrow is meaningless. There is only an eternal, unchanging now. The soul is sealed in its state of suffering. The door is locked, and the key has been thrown away by the soul's own free will. This despair is a fire that consumes everything. It extinguishes any possibility of peace or relief. The soul understands, with a finality that is absolute, that its separation from God, its remorse of conscience, and all its other sufferings will have no end. Not in 1,000,000 years, not in 1,000,000,000, never. This is the seal of God's justice upon a choice that the soul itself made final. These first 3 torments are purely spiritual, an internal agony of the soul itself. They are the core of the suffering. But Faustina saw that the torment does not end there. She was then shown the more external and sensory punishments. What she describes next is a great fire that penetrates the soul without destroying it, a terrible punishment kindled by God's anger. But there is another torment, one that is unique and terrifyingly personal for each and every soul. What is this special torment, prepared for each soul according to the sins it committed? The answer is more chilling than you might imagine. The 4th torment St. Faustina witnessed was a fire, but not a fire as we know it. Our earthly fire consumes and destroys what it touches. It provides light and warmth. The fire of hell, she wrote, is entirely different. It is a fire of pure wrath, a spiritual fire that penetrates the very essence of the soul. It doesn't provide light. In fact, it coexists with a terrifying darkness. It doesn't consume the soul to ashes. Instead, it tortures it without end. It is a fire that burns with the anger of a rejected God. Imagine the white-hot intensity of a love that is spurned, of a mercy that is trampled upon. This fire is the spiritual manifestation of that rejected love, now experienced as divine justice. It is a torment that is both universal and deeply personal. It's not a physical burning, because the souls there do not yet have their resurrected bodies. It is a burning of the spirit, a searing pain that attacks the core of one's being. A constant agonizing reminder of the holiness of the God they rejected and the impurity of the soul that chose to live in sin. This fire is not a metaphor. Faustina was clear. It is a real spiritual suffering, a direct consequence of standing in the presence of God's perfect justice without the protection of His mercy. It is the soul's own sinfulness being set ablaze by the purity it can no longer attain. But beyond this general torment of fire, Faustina describes a 5th and even more insidious form of suffering. She writes that there are special torments designated for individual souls. These are the torments of the senses. Each soul suffers in a way that corresponds directly to the sins it committed in life. Think about that for a moment. This is not a one-size-fits-all punishment. This is a personalized hell, tailor-made by the soul's own choices. The sins we commit with our bodies and our senses in this life become the very instruments of our eternal torture in the next.
A soul that lived for gluttony, for the excessive pleasure of taste, might experience an eternal gnawing hunger and a thirst that can never be quenched. A soul that lived a life of lust, using its body and the bodies of others for selfish pleasure, might experience a torment related to that very sense, twisted into a source of unending agony and repulsion. Those whose ears delighted in gossip, slander, and unholy music might be condemned to hear nothing but accusations, blasphemies, and shrieks of despair for all eternity. Those whose eyes were consumed by vanity, greed, and impure images might be forced to gaze upon horrifying and disgusting things, a perpetual assault on the sense they once idolized. It is the terrible and perfect irony of divine justice. The very things we made into our gods on earth become our demons in hell. The pleasure we chose over God becomes the source of our eternal pain. Faustina's vision reveals a hell that is not arbitrary, but a direct and logical consequence of a life lived in rebellion against God's natural law. And this leads to the sixth torment. After the loss of God, the remorse, the despair, the fire, and the torments of the senses comes the torment of company. Faustina describes a perpetual darkness, and in this darkness, the continual sight of Satan and the fallen angels. In this life, evil can be alluring. It can masquerade as power, as freedom, as pleasure. The devil is the master of disguise, the father of lies. He tempts us with promises of everything we desire.
But in hell, all the masks come off. The souls of the damned are in the constant company of the very beings who tricked them into their eternal ruin. They see Satan not as a powerful rebel, but as a being consumed by pure, unadulterated hatred. Hatred for God, hatred for the saints, and most intensely, hatred for the very souls he has dragged down with him. There is no camaraderie in hell. There is no party of the damned. There is only mutual loathing, accusation, and torment. The demons who once whispered sweet temptations now shriek with malicious glee at the suffering of their victims. And the damned souls hate the demons for deceiving them. They hate each other for their shared misery, and they hate themselves for their foolishness. It is a society built on pure, unadulterated hatred, a constant war of all against all, trapped in suffocating darkness. These 6 torments paint a picture of unimaginable suffering, a place utterly devoid of love, light, hope, or peace. It is the complete and total inversion of everything God intended for us. And Faustina was commanded to write it all down so that we would know. But there is a 7th torment she mentions, a final crushing weight upon the damned soul. This last torment is the one that sets the stage for the answer to our ultimate question. What is this final despair? And what happens when, in the midst of all this, a soul dares to cry out the name of God? The silence that follows is not what you think. The 7th and final torment that Saint Faustina describes is the most psychologically devastating of all. It is the despair that flows from the hatred of God. This might seem strange. Why would a soul that chose to be separated from God hate Him? The answer lies in the nature of pride and rebellion. In hell, the soul finally understands the complete and total goodness of God. It sees His beauty, His justice, His mercy, and His love with a clarity it never had on earth. But because the soul has definitively and eternally rejected that goodness, it cannot embrace it. Instead, that perfect goodness becomes a source of infinite torment. Imagine being trapped in a dark, cold cell, and through a small crack you can see a world of warmth, light, and joy. But you know you can never reach it, and you know it was your own fault you are in the cell. That sight, instead of being a comfort, would become a source of rage and bitterness. You would begin to hate the light for revealing the misery of your darkness. This is the state of the damned. They hate God because His very existence is a perpetual reminder of what they have lost. They hate His mercy because they are eternally cut off from it. They hate His love because they can no longer receive it. This hatred is not a passive feeling. It is an active, burning rage that consumes the soul from within. It is the final, impotent scream of a creature raging against its Creator, a rebellion frozen in time for all eternity. This hatred fuels the despair. It is the ultimate spiritual poison, twisting what should be the source of all joy into the source of all pain. The soul is trapped in a feedback loop of torment. The loss of God causes pain. The pain fuels hatred, and the hatred deepens the despair and the sense of loss. This is the seventh and final seal on the soul's damnation. Now, with this complete and terrifying picture in mind, we can finally address the central question. A question born from a flicker of hope, or perhaps just a flicker of memory. What happens in the midst of this eternal torment, this absolute separation, this burning hatred, when a soul tries to call God again? Does the memory of prayer, the habit of a lifetime, or a sudden desperate impulse cause a name to form in the soul's consciousness? God or Jesus? Does it cry out for the very mercy it once rejected? Saint Faustina was shown the answer. It is not what we might expect. It is not simple silence. When a soul in hell calls out to God, something profound happens. It is not an external event. God does not suddenly appear in a flash of light. The demons do not pause in their torment. The fires do not cool. The change is internal, within the soul itself. At the very moment the soul attempts to formulate the name of God, it is instantly and overwhelmingly flooded with the full, complete, and perfect understanding of everything it lost by that name. The name God is not just a word. It is the summary of all goodness, all love, all mercy, all being. To speak that name in hell is to invoke the memory of every grace, every moment of love, every chance for salvation that was attached to that name. It's like a drowning man crying out for water, only to be instantly consumed by the full knowledge of the vast, fresh ocean he willingly abandoned for a cup of poison. The act of calling out to God does not bring relief, it brings the opposite. It becomes a new and exquisite form of torture. The very name that is the source of all hope for the living becomes the source of the deepest despair for the damned. It sharpens the torment of remorse. It deepens the understanding of their eternal loss. The soul sees, in that instant, the infinite chasm between what it is and what it could have been. It feels the full weight of its terrible choice. The name of God, which on earth was a key to heaven, becomes in hell a mirror that reflects the soul's own monstrous choice, magnifying its ugliness and despair 1,000-fold. But is that all? Is it just an internal psychological torment? Or is there an external reaction as well? What do the other inhabitants of hell, the demons and the other damned souls, do when they hear this name uttered? The vision Faustina had suggests that the reaction is both immediate and violent, because that name, even in hell, still holds a terrible power. The name of God is not merely a word. It is a declaration of reality. In our world, it is a prayer, a shield, a source of comfort. It is the name before which evil trembles. Even in hell, a place defined by its rejection of God, the name retains its intrinsic power. It is a reminder of the ultimate authority, the ultimate victory of good over evil.
And for the inhabitants of hell, both demonic and human, it is the name of their eternal adversary and their eternal loss. So when a soul utters that name, the reaction is immediate and violent. The demons, who were once angels in the presence of God, are thrown into a frenzy of renewed hatred. That name is the sound of their eternal defeat. It is the name of the one who cast them out of heaven. It is a searing reminder of the glory they forfeited through their pride. Their response is not one of reverence or fear in the way we understand it. It is a reaction of pure, unadulterated rage. They descend upon the soul who spoke the name, not just with physical torment, but with a torrent of psychological abuse. They shriek with mockery, "You call him now? Where was he when you chose us? He has abandoned you. He does not hear you. You belong to us." They use the soul's desperate cry as a new weapon against it. They twist the memory of God's love into a tool of torture, reminding the soul that it is precisely this love that it is now eternally barred from. The act of calling for God, instead of creating a space for peace, invites a more focused and intense assault from the very beings who orchestrated the soul's downfall. And what of the other damned souls? In this society of pure hatred, there is no sympathy. There is no shared moment of sorrowful remembrance. The cry of God from one soul does not inspire a chorus of regret. Instead, it incites their fury as well. Hearing the name likely triggers the same internal torment within them, that sudden, sharp, agonizing realization of what they've lost. And their reaction is to lash out at the source of this new pain. They join the demons in their mockery and accusations. "Fool, you drag us deeper into this memory. Be silent. You are one of us now. His name has no power here for you." The soul who calls out becomes a pariah, even in a land of pariahs. It becomes a focal point for the collective rage and despair of its surroundings. By invoking the memory of heaven, it has made the reality of hell even more unbearable for everyone, including itself. The darkness becomes thicker, the hatred more intense, the shrieks of despair louder. The attempt to reach for the light only serves to intensify the darkness. It is a horrifying illustration of the finality of the soul's choice. It demonstrates that the soul is not just physically trapped in hell, but spiritually and socially trapped as well. There is no escape, no corner of solace, no moment of respite.
Every attempt to look back at the light is met with a violent storm of hatred from all sides. This vision paints a picture of absolute finality, a door that is not only locked, but barricaded from both sides, by God's perfect justice and by the soul's own definitive choice. But this raises a crucial and difficult question about God's nature. If God is all-powerful, all-loving, and all-merciful, why does He allow this? Why can't His mercy pierce the very walls of hell? Is He truly absent, or is He present in a way we can't comprehend? The answer that St. Faustina's visions imply is one of the most challenging and profound aspects of this entire revelation. To understand why God's mercy doesn't seem to operate in hell, we must first understand what mercy truly is. We often think of mercy as God simply overlooking our faults, like a lenient judge dismissing a case. But in Catholic teaching, as revealed to St. Faustina, mercy is something much more profound. It is not just forgiveness, it is a transformative power. It is God's love reaching down to heal, restore, and elevate a soul. However, for this transformation to occur, one thing is absolutely necessary: the consent of the soul. God's love is a gift, not an imposition. He stands at the door and knocks, as the Scripture says, but He will not break the door down. He respects our free will so completely that He allows us to say no to Him, even for eternity. The state of a soul in hell is the state of a definitive, eternal no. It is a soul that has, through its life's choices, trained itself to reject God's love. At the moment of judgment, it saw God's love in its full glory, and still, out of pride, attachment to sin, or despair, it refused Him. The door was locked from the inside. So, when a soul in hell cries out the name of God, it is not the cry of a repentant heart seeking reconciliation. It cannot be. The soul's will is now fixed in its rejection of God. It is more like the cry of a prisoner cursing the name of the king whose laws he broke. It is a cry of agony and rage, not a cry of love and contrition. The soul doesn't want God's love. It wants relief from the consequences of rejecting His love. It wants to escape the pain without embracing the healer. God is not absent from hell. As theologians like Thomas Aquinas have taught, God is present everywhere by His power and essence. His justice is what upholds the reality of hell. His justice is what gives the soul exactly what it chose, a life without Him. In a terrifying way, hell is an expression of God's respect for the soul's freedom. He gave the soul what it insisted on having, itself, as the center of its own universe. And it turns out that a universe with the self at the center, cut off from the source of all life and love, is hell. So, God does hear the cry, but He hears it for what it is, not a plea for mercy, but a scream of self-inflicted pain. And His mercy cannot act where the will is fixed in opposition to it. To force His love upon a soul that has eternally rejected it would be a violation of that soul's very nature, a spiritual violence that God, in His goodness, will not commit. This is a hard truth. It is the most challenging aspect of Christian faith. We want to believe in a love that can fix everything, even after the end. But the testimony of saints like Faustina reminds us that our choices have real, eternal weight. Free will is not a temporary gift for our time on earth. It is the engine of our eternity. The vision of hell is not meant to make us despair about God's mercy. On the contrary, it is meant to make us marvel at its incredible power right now in this life. It is a stark warning that the time for choosing is finite. The ocean of mercy that Jesus spoke of to Faustina is available to us now, in this moment, no matter what we have done. But the shore of that ocean is the last breath we take. Faustina's message is an urgent one. It is a call to recognize the spiritual battle we are in, a call to run to the sacrament of confession, to trust in God's mercy, and to pray for the conversion of sinners. She was shown hell not to condemn the world, but to save it by showing us exactly what we are being saved from. So what is the practical application of this terrifying knowledge? How do we live our lives in a way that ensures we never experience this reality? The answer lies in the very heart of Faustina's mission, the devotion to divine mercy. Jesus didn't just show her the problem, He gave her the solution, a set of tools for our spiritual journey. And understanding these tools is the key to turning this frightening revelation into a source of profound hope and action. The terrifying vision given to Saint Faustina was never meant to be an end point. It was a beginning. It was a divine wake-up call, a stark and loving warning designed not to paralyze us with fear, but to mobilize us with a holy urgency. Jesus showed her the abyss so she could point us toward the ocean of His mercy. He revealed the consequence of a definitive no so that we would have the courage to give our definitive yes today. The truth of what happens when a soul in hell calls out to God is a testament to the finality of our choices and the infinite respect God has for our free will. It is a reality where the name of God, the source of all hope, becomes the ultimate confirmation of despair. This is the tragic endpoint of a life lived for oneself. But we are not at that endpoint. We are here, we are now, and for us, the name of God is still a lifeline. The message of Saint Faustina is profoundly hopeful. It tells us that no matter how far we have strayed, no matter how great our sins, the ocean of divine mercy is greater still. Jesus told her that His mercy is so vast that no mind, be it of man or of angel, will be able to fathom it throughout all eternity. He is not a God waiting to condemn, but a Father waiting to embrace. He waits for us in the confessional, He pours Himself out for us in the Eucharist, and He speaks to us in the quiet of our hearts. The vision of hell is the dark velvet cloth upon which the diamond of divine mercy shines most brightly. It gives context to our need for a Savior. It gives meaning to the sacrifice on the cross. And it should fill us with a profound sense of gratitude and a deep desire to respond to this incredible gift of love. We are not meant to live in fear of hell, but to live in the joy and freedom of God's mercy, a mercy that saves us from it. Transforming Insights into Action, your practical guide. This knowledge should not remain just a chilling story. It must become a catalyst for change in our own lives. Here is a practical guide inspired by the message of Saint Faustina to help you respond to this call. In the next 24 hours, first, pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. If you have never prayed it before, find a guide online. It only takes about 7 minutes. Offer it for a specific intention, for a family member who has fallen away from the faith, for someone who is dying, or for the grace to make a good confession yourself. Jesus promised Saint Faustina that when this chaplet is said by the bedside of a dying person, unfathomable mercy envelops the soul. Be an instrument of that mercy today. Second, perform a conscious act of trust. Sometime today, when you feel anxious, worried, or tempted to despair, stop what you are doing. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say slowly from the heart, "Jesus, I trust in you." Feel the weight of your problem transfer from your shoulders to His. This simple prayer was the cornerstone of Faustina's spirituality, a direct line to the heart of God. In the next 7 days, first, schedule a time for confession. Don't just think about it. Look up the confession times at your local parish and put it in your calendar as a firm appointment. Prepare by examining your conscience, asking the Holy Spirit to show you where you have failed in love for God and neighbor. Remember Jesus' words to Faustina, "When you go to confession, know this, that I myself am waiting for you in the confessional. I am only hidden by the priest, but I myself act in your soul. Go and meet him there." Second, practice one act of mercy. The Divine Mercy devotion is not just about receiving mercy, but also about giving it. This week, choose one concrete spiritual or corporal work of mercy to perform. Forgive someone who has hurt you and tell them if appropriate. Visit someone who is lonely. Donate food to a local pantry.
Do it quietly, not for praise, but purely out of love for God, seeing His face in the person you are serving. In the next 30 days, first, begin reading St. Faustina's diary. You don't have to read it all at once. Commit to reading just one page or one entry each day for the next month. Keep a small notebook and write down one sentence that strikes you. Let the words of Jesus and His saint slowly seep into your heart. This diary is a school of trust and a treasure map to the depths of God's mercy. Second, establish a mercy hour. Find a time, perhaps on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., the hour of great mercy, to spend 15-30 minutes in quiet prayer, reflecting on Christ's passion. You can do this at home, at a church, or even in your car during a lunch break. Use this time to thank Him for His sacrifice and to bring the needs of the whole world before Him.
This practice will deepen your gratitude for the price He paid to save you from the very realities Faustina witnessed. The choice between an eternity of love and an eternity of regret is made in the small, daily choices of a lifetime. Thank you for joining us on this profound journey into one of the most powerful revelations of our time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next revelations we will uncover together. Please comment below with what touched you most in this video, and let us know what city you are watching from. And finally, share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this message of urgent mercy.